Hey everyone. So I am answering a comment from one of my patrons, and it is broken up into three different parts. So let's start with number one, which is this is now following the the recent videos I did on animals, taking care of animals, and things like that. So, first point is how keeping in consideration that if you're taking in an animal, bigger animals are going to eat more and they're going to poo more and mess more, and they can also, just because of their size, do more damage to your furniture and things like that, which, yes, that is a very relevant point to consider, especially when you're looking at the cost of feeding an animal. And I know that these days everyone is kind of on the breadline, everyone is strapped for cash. So if you're going to adopt an animal that's going to get big, you need to make sure that you can feed it. And trust me, you always have to feed more than the recommended feeding guidelines, especially when they're small, when they're growing up. Like if it's a dog, when they're puppies, they're running, they're playing, they're growing, they eat more than you can imagine. So be aware of that. Don't take in an animal that you cannot financially care for. Then also, yes, the mess is going to be more. You need to be willing to deal with that. If the animal is going to be kept indoors, then chances are at some point in their life, they're going to mess your house up, something awful. And you need to be okay with that. And you need to just breathe and clean up after them, because they don't have the ability to voice themselves the way that we do. We can't say to them, hey, I noticed that you ripped up my curtain. Is there any particular reason you did that? And then they respond to us and say, oh, you know what, actually I'm quite frustrated. I'd really like some more toys to play with. So they are doing whatever they are going to need to do and whatever they want to do. And us getting angry at them for being who and what they are is not fair. Okay, then the second point is how powerful animals can actually be dangerous, especially as they mature. So yes, this is very important to consider, especially if it's an animal type that you don't have a lot of experience with. So if it's an animal that can get very big, very strong, maybe has a tendency towards maybe not aggression, but playing rough even, they can hurt you. And you need to know how to deal with that situation if there's an animal that is being overly aggressive or being overly rambunctious with you and they have the size to potentially seriously hurt you. Be careful. Know what you need to do to be safe. And whenever it's relevant, you need to also know and understand that particular animal's behavior enough to help them to not go to that place where they might potentially hurt someone. Okay? Then the final point is to do with food and feeding animals, because I did mention the tendency of animals to become overweight if they are fed too much or if they are not given enough exercise and so on and so forth. So the concern in the comment was that, is it not unfair to the animal to limit what they eat, not only in quantity but also in the type of food, meaning that the animals are eating the same food every day? And isn't it unfair to them to force them to only eat 1 or 2 meals in a day at your particular under your control, supervision? So the point that stands out to me here is that what we tend to do is we tend to impose our own way of thinking and living and seeing the world onto animals. This is something that a lot of people do. I know I've done it before. So we think that they want the things and feel the way that we feel, want the things that we want, feel the way that we feel, think about things, see things the way that we do, and they don't. Animal nature and behavior can be quite different. Now, when it comes to food, an overweight animal is essentially at risk for having a very, very shortened lifespan. The extra weight puts a lot of stress on their bodies, on their skeletal structure, on their cardiovascular system, on their muscles, their breathing, everything. It puts a lot of extra strain, and as they age, you see them getting a lot more health problems. It becomes more difficult for them to move. They're going to get arthritis, more of it and earlier, things like that. So here you're looking at, it's kind of the saying of killing with kindness. You want to be kind to your animals, so you let them eat whatever they want, whenever they want. But it makes them fat, but you think it's okay, they're happy. Then when they end up only living half as long as they should have, is it really then unfair to create that boundary for them to live within when it comes to food, meaning that, yes, you are controlling their diet. You're doing it because if you don't, they will slowly kill themselves, essentially. So we don't see it as fair and nice to control someone else's food and things like that. With animals, we're now looking at, essentially at heart, a wild creature that lived very differently to what we impose on them today. They used to hunt, obviously not the fancy breeds that we're seeing now, but at the core, the ancestry of dogs and cats, for example, they were wild. They would hunt, and they would hunt, well, okay, dogs might eat once a day, maybe once every 2 days. Cats would eat many small meals throughout the day, like a mouse here, a bird there, a lizard an hour or two later. So not only is how they're living with us now contrary to their ancestry, but the way that it's like in every aspect it's unnatural. However, they have adapted, and now the point of food, their bodies are still based on the design of their ancestors. So with dogs, eating once a day is not bad for them, for example, because that is the original design of their bodies, that they would only, on average, eat once a day. When it comes to their behavior, that changes when they're only getting 1 or 2 meals in a day. Well, there can be a lot of different reasons for that. If they are wanting to hunt more and eat more, then okay, yes, you do need to check that you're feeding them enough, and you need to also remember that if it's an animal that's used to getting a lot of food and now it's being restricted, they're going to feel more hungry as their bodies adjust to that. There will be a difficult period of adjustment for sometimes up to 2 or 3 months. So that is something that you need to take into consideration when you're changing a diet, is that they will be adjusting to it in a lot of different levels, a lot of different ways. Their behavior is one of them. Then when it comes to feeding the same food every day, here, this is kind of a tricky subject, because now we're dealing with the pet food industry, which is an industry. So it's not something that I trust or respect. There are a lot of different websites that provide educational material on alternative foods, or maybe better options within the pet food industry, what to feed. So my suggestion would be to do a little bit of research and see if you can accommodate for a different diet It can be quite time consuming. Sometimes it can be expensive as well. Like with my cats, I feed them the chicken, the offal, which I get for dirt cheap, and it's from a hormone-free supplier, and they're free-range chickens as well, and it's a really great price. And it's not ideal because, you know, ideally we'd want some more skin and brown meat in there, but they eat it and it's filling for them. I need to supplement with taurine, and there are a bunch of other supplements that could be done, but I'm going off track there. Do research and see what you can learn about the diet and feeding habits of animals, of the specific animals that you have, and see if you can, as best as you are able, give them the best possible food in a way that is good for them and in a way that ensures that they're going to lead long and healthy lives. Generally, as a rule of thumb, the pet food that you buy in a supermarket is going to be not good, generally speaking. I'm not sure what it's like in other countries, but I know here in South Africa, you just don't do it. But then again, a lot of the vet promoted brands are not all that much better. So educate yourself, because there is a lot of information out there. Investigate everything and keep what's good. So, yeah. If you have any more questions, or if you'd like me to expand on any points, or if anything wasn't clear, please let me know. Drop a comment, leave a message. Otherwise, I'm pretty sure that I've covered everything as far as I can read in the comment. So, thanks for watching. If you'd like to support me, you can do so on Patreon. The link is in the description. I shall see you next time.